And there we are, or here we are, or there you go. It's Wednesday night. It's 7 p.m. It's time for the South Carolina NORML Cannabis Conversation. Ah, I gotta say, I, I'm kind of looking forward to this one tonight. And then I almost ended up on the couch taking a nap, and I went, "Oh, hold it! I got a podcast to do. I got some people to talk to in South Carolina and wherever else you might come be visiting from to talk about cannabis tonight." So I set a couple of alarms on my watch, my phone to remind myself to get off the couch, get myself a little drink of water, and get ready to chat. I see we got some folks starting to join us here in the room. I appreciate that. And so we're going to, as usual, give it a minute or two to let people kind of join in, get settled, get their own beverage, while I click a couple buttons here and say stuff like, welcome to everybody, and all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. Any kind. What the heck is that? Something stuck on the floor, and this is the ADHD in me, or whatever you want to call it, obsessive compulsive, has to unstick whatever it is from the floor there. Excuse me. Okay. Sorry about that. Uh, all right. Let me put this light back. Do a little adjustment there. All right. Should be kind of an interesting program. What do we got in comments? Watching this one with Mary Jane, and we're both very victimized by America's war on drugs. Yes, you are. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. I appreciate you kind of giving me that segue in there. I'll kind of get into that in our intro and such like that. I do want to remind you, though, during the intro here to follow us on social media. We do occasionally post to Twitter and Instagram. Um, just heard today or yesterday or something, Instagram might want to start charging $8 a month. You won't be seeing us over there. I mostly post it to Facebook. I'm old, and they say Facebook is where old people go. I try to post when I can, especially to our blog and our website at scnormal.org. But really, the best place to keep kind of up to keep tabs on us is visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell to get notifications for when we're coming on for the podcast. Because I haven't missed many. I'm here almost every Wednesday at 7 p.m. We've had a couple of them sick or, shit like that. Power outages have caused some hiccups. But that's generally where you can find us most of the time. Also, while you are on our website, don't forget to visit our sponsor page by going and hitting the About and drop on down to our sponsors, take you over there. And if you run a business and you would like to reach out to our supporters and would like to be a sponsor, reach out to me through our contact page on our website. And we'll see if we can get you hooked up. Talking about that, actually, we had a great conversation last night. A wonderful visitor, Mike Sims, the owner of the Crown Town Cannabis CBD hemp shop up there in Columbia. He's got a couple of other locations. I know North Carolina. Still kind of catching my attention. We got them a packet out, very similar to the ones that we've been telling y'all about. Our advocacy packs, I think I announced it a week or two ago. I haven't been doing a lot of push on them, but I do want to remind you while we're here tonight, free of charge, our advocacy packets for what we're calling the Spread the Word Advocacy Pack. We are asking you to spend to pay the shipping, and I hate to admit it, but I can't figure out how to get our shipping to send it to you first class package versus priority mail. So I'm kind of stuck using priority mail at the moment. I apologize for that because it does cost a couple of dollars more. But we'll send you let me see if I can remember. 6 of our brochures, 6 of them, one of them for yourself. If you don't already have one, that way we can make sure that you have yourself a copy of the NORML Foundation Freedom Card to keep with your ID in case you're ever stopped by law enforcement. That will help you invoke your Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment rights under the Constitution. And we'll kind of explain them to you a little bit. If you have any more questions on those, reach out to me. So one for yourself, but five for people that you care about that also you think need to be protected or not have the knowledge of their constitutional rights. Also including in that packet that we're sending out is 26, I believe the number is, our little QR code cards that say nobody should be arrested for simple marijuana possession. Our hopes with these is that you will keep one for yourself again, along with your brochure, but then take five little stacks of five to five different businesses in your community that you might think they'll allow you to leave them next to their cash register. And we don't care if you leave them this side up or this side up. Somebody might pick them up. We think that side they'll pick it up quicker to see what it might be. But see if you can kind of put them around the community, spread the word a little bit. I tell you another thing that I tend to do with these things and the stickers quite often that I'll mention in a moment. When I go out to eat and I pay the check and I leave a tip and I slip a card or a sticker or both into the little folder with my payment. Also in that advocacy pack, we are including 4 dozen. 4 dozen. That's 12 times 4. That's 48 of them. Stickers. I don't think I have one in front of me, do I? Got one in my. Don't even have one in my phone pouch. But they look an awful lot like our or badges. Basically say same thing. South Carolina NORML working to reform marijuana laws and our web address. And with those, what we ask you all to do is just to sort of either give a few of them to your friends that you gave the brochures and the freedom cards to. Let them have a couple. Maybe leave a couple with the store owners where you dropped off the little QR code cards. And otherwise, kind of pass out around and hand out some of the others any way you wish. So check out our website for those. We did just send, I mentioned Crown Town Cannabis because we did just send out our business advocacy pack, which includes a brochure holder. I think we got in there like, see if I remember, I wrote it down somewhere. I think we're sending them 75 brochures to pass out to their customers because we want their customers to have that knowledge of invoking their rights. Also in that packet, I think we sent them like a gross of stickers, 12 dozen, and somewhere at 45 of the QR codes to put by their register. And we're hoping that they'll help spread the word to other businesses, and we'll get some of those advocacy packs out for business advocates on our website in the next few days. Once I kind of get them nailed down exactly, we'll get those out there for, again, hopefully a real reasonable price for them, shipping plus our printing cost. And the reason I ask printing costs on some of these things, folks, is just so we can resupply and keep spreading the message. I mean, right now we do have a pretty good supply, but we really want to get these spread around there. So first pack's free of our advocacy pack. So if you go online and order, we're asking $5 for them, but the first one's free, and then you pay the shipping, which, like I said, I think with the priority mail, it's close to $7. It might be a little less, might be a little more. I forget. But go ahead and if you got a couple extra dollars that you can spare to pay for shipping, order up a pack, spread them around, give them to your friends, all that kind of fun stuff. Oh, and look at this. We got some visitors with Nancy. Come on in and visited. Bonafide. If you're in the Columbia area, Josh is probably, he says he's got some brochures. I know we left him a good stack of them when we were up there. Oh, geez, almost 2 years ago when we were at that Soda City event in January of 2021, 2022. So there are some there. Oh, Joey's here. Hey, Joey. Nice to see you. And I'm not sure how to pronounce, but first timer here, welcome. I want to say no eggs. Might be a soft G, I don't know, but welcome. Thank you very much for visiting and for joining us tonight. Apologize for butchering your name. All right, let me kind of get to my next little spot here. Talk a little bit about our agenda tonight. Josh kind of gave, I think, a hint in comments a little earlier. mentioning being victimized by the war on drugs. Let me see if I can bring this up on our share screen. Well, actually, I'll bring it up in a minute after we do trivia. Um, but we've talked about it on the podcast before with some of our revamping after losing a VP to resigning a couple of weeks back. We've had to sort of reevaluate and what we can have do. Um, being down a key player. And this is something that's been sort of on the back burner. Unfortunately, instead of going out and getting signatures and trying to do a petition right now, I'm going to shift those energies into collecting stories of people who have been victimized by the war on drugs here in America, primarily here in South Carolina. Um, so we're going to be talking about that podcast coming up. Those are going to be pre-recorded podcasts. I'm sure at some point we'll play some clips on them on this podcast, and we'll probably even maybe well, here's our introduction to them tonight. We may show snippets, but I don't know. We may on occasional Wednesdays, if I really need something to plug in some stories on the Vilified. But we'll talk about that a little bit more tonight, and getting that story started. And that I want to sort of thank. Soon-to-be senator. He won his election, Dion Tedder. He's House Representative Dion Tedder right now, but did just win the election, runoff election yesterday. Excuse me, let me turn that banner off that's scrolling down there. For Senate District 42. If you recall, Senator Representative Tedder was on, he hasn't been sworn in as a senator, I guess, not till January. Where am I going with this? Oh, Representative Tedder was on with us a couple of weeks ago. He is the sponsor of what we're calling the cannabis smell bill. The fact that the smell of cannabis should not be reasonable cause or to search, seize, or arrest someone. So we're happy that he's won that. I'm assuming as a senator, he will reintroduce some sort of that similar legislation in the Senate. But that's one of, to me, some of the key starting legislation that we need to start moving forward in the state. I know there's a lot of focus, and there has been a lot of focus over the past 8 years about the medical bill, and we support it. I say that a little apprehensively because it's a very restrictive, not very comprehensive bill. Really kind of there's a lot better medical cannabis bills throughout the nation that they could be emulating, but instead they want to bend over backwards and appease the uninformed and law enforcement, criminal justice in our state. Anyway, I'll rant about that later. We really believe moving forward with decrim and things like smell bills are really the key to protecting the citizens of South Carolina from uh, overzealous enforcement of cannabis laws, if you will. So we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Our Vilified program coming up, collecting your stories, trying to do what we can to make them as cohesive and informative for our legislators. Because again, this is something that Representative Tedder said when he was with us the other night, that as a lawyer, his day job is real. He deals with a lot of people that have had issues with this. Cops saying, "Oh, I smell weed," and then not finding any, and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're going to be talking about for the most part tonight. I am going to be asking um, some of your input on some of the things. See if maybe you can help me with some wording on questions or some questions I maybe should be asking during the interview process. I'm not going to try and drag it out too much, but there's a few things I kind of want to talk to you all about and get your input. So let me just go ahead and switch some more here and take us to our transition to our first cannabis question. As usual, we try to do three of them in a week. I generally get one, sometimes two done. Last week we did two, so we have a question left over from last week. We're going to pull two more from the pile. Look at that. Let's see if we can get all three of these done tonight. Two culture categories, one knowledge category. We'll put the two culture categories on top. I need as much culture as I can get at the moment. And here we go, folks. Get your comment buttons ready, or however you do that. Get your answers ready. Culture category in our Stoner Trivia questions here. 40-point question if you're keeping score. The cannabis plant, according to what mythology, has ties to the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility? Is it Norse, Greek, or Roman? Culture category, 40-point question. The cannabis plant, according to what mythology, has ties to the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility? Would that be Norse, Greek, or Roman? Quick sip of water. Throw your answers if you got them. Do my real quick plug that we would love to be able to do these as sponsored trivia questions. So if your business would like a comment, blurb, shout out on our podcast on Wednesdays, contact us again through our contact page on our website, scnormal.org, and let me know. We'll hook you up with sponsoring trivia questions. All right, one last time. Here we go with the answer. I'm going to actually be on top of it. Click the answer button tonight on the screen. Culture category, 40-point question. The cannabis plant, according to what mythology, has ties to the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility? Norse, Greek, or Roman? Let me real quick check comments here. We've got two answers here. We've got Norse and Greek in the comments. No Romans in the comments. And the answer is Norse. Those Nordic gods, according to their mythology, like their weed, their love, their beauty, and their fertility. So that's that one tonight, folks. Very cool. First question out of the way. We'll get to the others a little bit later in the program. Thank you for playing. All right, let me click that button off. I don't have any other screenshot things here, so it's almost time to share screen. Let's get into it here a little bit, and let me see kind of some of your input on this stuff here. I'll take you out to one of my favorite websites, South Carolina NORML.org. There we are. So I started putting this together. I don't know, it's probably way too small in the print to read on the share screen. So I will read some of it out to you, but we've gotten a couple of backgrounds for our podcast. This one here, which we'll use as the show is being introed, and then I have another one with basically the same background, and it shifted things around so you can still read Vilified. And I think Stories from Victims of Drug War goes up top. Vilified kind of sneaks down here, smaller. Fun stuff. I could probably even show it to you on here. Let me find it. Oh, there we go. Switch pictures. Yeah, that one there. Anyway, let me turn that off. We don't need that one at the moment. I'll come back over here. All right. So anyway, Vilified, Stories of Victims of the Drug War. This is our website. Let me just remind you of that, scnormal.org. So you can visit this in a not too distant future. Actually, didn't think about it. If you can't read it on the screen, maybe, I don't know how many devices you got in front of you. I've got multiple screens. Sorry. I will kind of zoom that in a little bit bigger in just a moment for you. Let me see the comments here. Oh, okay. Comments on the Norse. Very cool. I'll get back to that in just a minute. So anyway, this is something, like I said, we talked about a while back, and after Rep Tender was on, and he said, "Look, I'd really like to collect stories on folks that have been stopped and accused of the smell of marijuana by a law officer And I think he said on our talk or on a conversation I had previous to him, something like 80 to 90% of his clients, nothing's ever found. Or his understanding is 80, 90% of the time, nothing's found when the claim is made. I know, at least from statistically, like 80% or so of when drug smelling dogs alert, nothing's found. So it would probably be like higher percent when a law officer guesses it. Oh, I was reading a great one today when I was kind of researching some of this. Some law officer who claimed he could smell weed while he was in his vehicle and another moving vehicle was going by with their windows up, and there were Ziploc baggies, two of them, an ounce in each, and he could smell it magically while it was driving by. uh, the freaking the miracles that happen. So sorry about that. Let me just learn something. Okay. Basically, the aim of this, and this is what I'm going to kind of read this out to you, just because again the type is so small. Uh, it's shedding light on the real life experiences of South Carolina citizens who have been adversely affected by the American government's war on cannabis consumers, and that American war trickles down hard into South Carolina. Um, and why do I say that? Because a lot of the war on drugs is government funded, federally funded. A lot of money trickles down from the federal government in this war on drugs. And that is my understanding. A lot of the reason why local law enforcement is apprehensive to de emphasize marijuana arrests or to go along with decriminalization or medical use. Um, because if it hinders their ability to arrest people for simple cannabis possession, it's and they can't now document arrests that they've made in this war on drugs, they're not going to get the allocations from the federal government that they're wanting. It's all a money game. Um, sometimes it's so loud it's screaming. Podcast will encompass a range of poignant narratives. I like that comment, Josh. I just got to bring it up. Yep, sometimes it's so loud it's screaming. uh, that reminds me of something completely different that was funny, but I'll bring that up later, hopefully. Podcast will encompass a range of poignant narratives, personal accounts, and interviews that explore the multifaceted impact of drug prohibition policies on individuals and communities. Now, I'm not going to lie to y'all. I had AI kind of help me write this stuff so it doesn't sound like my normal writing skills. Uh, I had some help. I got to tell you, I've been utilizing that a lot. Even if I am writing something, I will kind of run it by AI and say, "How would you edit this?" Um, and get some edits. So, key aspects of the podcast may include personal stories. Podcast will feature firsthand accounts from individuals who have faced legal and social consequences due to their involvement with cannabis, whether as consumers, advocates, or entrepreneurs. These stories will provide a human perspective on the impact of drug policies. Historical context. Vilified may delve into the history of America's drug war, examining how policies have evolved and their disproportionate impact on marginalized communities. You know, we talk about that stuff all the time. This is definitely going to delve into that. Number three on here, legal and social consequences, which again, we talk about the residual consequences of a cannabis arrest all the time. The series will explore the legal and social ramifications of cannabis prohibition, such as arrest, incarceration, job loss, and the enduring stigma associated with cannabis related offenses. Fourth on our list is going to be advocacy efforts. They may also spotlight the advocacy work of organizations like South Carolina NORML and other groups striving for cannabis policy reform and social justice. And I would again have no problem bringing into this storytelling folks that are associated more with the medical side of it, want to tell their medical stories right now. That's not what we're telling because we know those groups are already telling them. But if one of the leaders of one of those groups wanted to tell their story on how they decided to move into advocacy on this and promote their advocacy through this program, we'd have no problem with that at all. Um, Policy discussions, of course, we will bring those out probably more on our cannabis conversation podcast than we will actually on the Vilified podcast. But policy discussions will be definitely we'll be engaging those. As it says here, the podcast could engage in discussions about evolving landscapes of cannabis laws, both at the state and federal levels, and the potential for reform. Um, that particular line may fit in there, but will probably more fit into this podcast, the cannabis conversation. But the one thing we know we're going to tell in the stories there on Vilified is the community impact. I'll highlight the broader effects of drug policies on families, neighborhoods, the communities, including issues related to access to healthcare and education. Um, so those will definitely be brought up in the Vilified podcast. And then last on our list here, personal triumph. The podcast might feature stories of resilience, growth, and empowerment, showcasing how individuals have overcome adversity and contributed positively to their communities despite the challenges that they faced having a conviction for cannabis. Um, Not listed on here, but somewhere down the line, we may do a bit of a series on people that have kicked the opioid habit. I've had at least three people over the approximately 6 years I've been doing this year. Um, Six, seven, something like that. Um, at least three people in that amount of time tell me that they have overcome a 10, 11, 12. I think it was like one of them was 10, two of them were 12-year uh, opioid addictions. And they overcame that basically on their own with the assistance of cannabis. Um, I mean, my story as far as and overcoming an addiction was overcoming my addiction to tobacco, nicotine, cigarettes. I utilized cannabis to overcome cigarette smoking. Um, so there may be some of those kind of stories. I mean, not initially. And then basically here at the bottom it says, in essence, Vilified stories from victims of America's drug war aims to amplify the voices of those who have been impacted by the war on drugs and promote a deeper understanding of the need for drug policy reform and social justice in South Carolina and beyond. It serves as a platform for empathy, education, and advocacy in the ongoing conversation surrounding cannabis legalization and the implications implications of drug prohibition. Um, then you'll see down here it says, "Tell us your story." Link coming soon. So that's where I got to like earlier this afternoon. Links coming soon. I have created two different questionnaires so far. Um, my first four storyline interview questionnaires that I'm working on. First one, as we talked about for Representative Tedder, have you ever been stopped by law enforcement and had them accuse you of the smell of cannabis and not been arrested, but nothing was found? Um, and then the second story on that, have you ever had a simple possession cannabis arrest? How has that affected you in your life? Um, that kind of thing. So those are the first two up. Simple cannabis possession arrest, no other charges for the most part. I mean, or if that like sometimes you might get like a disorderly or a resisting. Yeah, but I mean, no other drug or kind of arrest. I would think we want to keep those very simple, very cannabis simple possession focused. Um, and then the one where you stop, did they use smell to search you, hold you, detain you, stuff like that. Thirdly on the list, I had it written down somewhere. I closed it up. Is going to be, let me find it. Please bear with me. Uh, Storylines. I thought I had four. Third one that I know of for certain is again with Mike Sims and Crown Cannabis on briefly with us last week. Stories of entrepreneurs, businesses that are trying to deal with this absurd uh, state attorney general's opinion letter on cannabinoids other than THC, all of which were basically legalized in the 2018 Farm Bill when they legalized hemp and anything with THC under zero point 0.3, so that all the other cannabinoids that were produced in the cannabis hemp plant were basically legalized with that law. But now they're trying to twist facts. And of course, with Mike's story, I mean, it was quite interesting. They take hemp flower, decarbox that THCA, and now it becomes THC. And you know, they took a legal product and they're the ones that made it illegal by decarboxylating it. Because again, the THCA was legalized under the 2018 Farm Bill. So, uh, thank you for that. I appreciate your comment. 10-year alcohol addiction, 3 years sober. Congratulations. Congratulations on that. I was quite a heavy drinker in my younger days. Um, I wouldn't say cannabis got me away from it, but I very rarely drink anymore. Um, and when I say very rarely, I mean, I'm trying to think the last time I had an alcohol beverage, but a lot of times I said somebody said, "Would you like a beer?" And I'm like in a mood. I'm like, Um, yeah, but I don't know one beer from another anymore. Pick one for me, and maybe I'll drink it. Um, and I do like a good Irish coffee every now and again in the holiday time. But again, a second drink is very, very rare for me. And if it is, I already know I'm giggling and getting, feeling the effects. I don't do that very often. But thank you for sharing that story. Definitely appreciate that. So, oh, geez, we rambled past the second canvas question, trivia question. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But while we do that cannabis question, what I am going to ask you all to do is just kind of think of some questions or some thoughts um, on in these kind of interviews. What would you ask these people? We're going to concentrate on these three categories because I can't remember if I had a fourth one. There was a fourth one. There was a fourth one. Parenting issues. Because I quite often get calls, I don't want to say quite often, but more often than I care to, young moms who have tested positive for cannabis by children's services for whatever reason they were being under the watchful eye of children's services. I don't know. Um, but yeah, they've contacted me a couple times and said, "Look, I was just consuming legal hemp products that I got up at such and such a store, and I happen to know the CBD shop or the hemp shop where they got it from, uh, and the testing doesn't test for THC necessarily; it's testing for cannabinoids. Um, and no, the smell thing. We're going back to that. They smell terpenes. That's what they learn to smell. They're not smelling THC or CBD or you know anyhow, so there is going to be a fourth question here on there, and that is going to be for young parents or parents who have had issues w because of cannabis, whether it is child custody issues through divorce, and there was nothing but cannabis that was sort of um, the reason for maybe not getting custody or something like that, or affecting custody, or how it may have affected custody. But especially these young parents who um, are being, see if I can find the right words. I want to say victimized by children's services, um, just because they're cannabis consumers, and so they're victimizing them. They're charging them with child neglect, child abuse, child endangerment. Um, uh, so. those are some of the stories that I think need to be told. Think about that yourselves. Throw it in the comments if you think maybe I'm missing the mark on some of those, or I need to add some different categories in, or stuff like that. In the meantime, while we do that, I'm going to go and clear my screen here for a second. Let you see me just a little bit bigger. Sorry about that. Uh, and get to our next trivia question. Uh, another culture category. Another culture category. Another 40-point question. 40 points. I hope I didn't show you the answer. I hope I pronounced it right. Shirak, Shirak, is a word used to describe high quality hashish in what country? Would that be Afghanistan, New Zealand, Egypt? Shirak is a word used to describe high quality hashish in what country? Afghanistan, New Zealand, or Egypt? Again, culture, 40-point question. Want to sponsor trivia questions? Reach out to me if you would on our website, scnormal.org. All right. And we've got some answers in the chat here. Egypt and Afghanistan are listed. 40-point question. Culture. Sharak is a word used to describe high quality hashish. Wish I had some. In what country? Afghanistan, New Zealand, or Egypt? And the answer is Afghanistan. I don't want to go there to get any, but I wouldn't mind trying some Shirak. All right, let me put this card away and we'll kind of get back to chatting here. Oh, and I guess what I'm gonna do somehow or another is turn off my camera. Oh, I lost the camera. I lost my camera. Let me see if I can go find it in settings again. There it goes. Back again. All right. Mic's still on. Computer hasn't locked up. And I think I have it open on my other device just in case. So it won't take me too long to log back on if I have to. Ah, all right, we're done with the second cannabis question. Oh, I wanted to kind of talk to you all about some of these other interview questions. I've only got two of the forms put together so far for our vilified stories. One is the odor one, and the other is first for simple possession arrest. So let me kind of just run down these with you. I guess I can show these on screen. It's no big deal. All right, and here's kind of where I'm thinking I need a little bit of advice. First off, we are going to ask for emails. Everybody has to confirm their email, or actually, I think we just take what they give. I don't think it's confirming it for anybody. Um, but we are asking your name. We have in there that we won't be publishing your name without permission. And that's kind of where, one of the questions I want to ask you all. I don't know how many people want to answer these anonymously or how many people would be willing to answer these and give their name. Um, I need a name just for our records so that we can contact them back and so that we can, work on the story and things like that, communicate with them, possibly bring them on. Because my plan is to have them kind of go through the questionnaire and then join us for a pre-recorded podcast, and we can talk to them. If they don't want to show their face, they can just use an icon of some sort. um, and I'm wondering, like in a situation like this, should we use names? Should we say, Story number 1724, story number 1725. Um, Johnny Long Pipe. Um, should we maybe use first name, last initial? And now the reason I'm asking, and here's some of my thoughts behind asking. I believe that if we use names and images and hold our stories to be true, that they'll have greater impact upon those that are watching. Legislators may believe it more if you know they see we who we are, blah blah blah. Um, Otherwise, I might think, yeah, they might say, oh, they're just putting actors on, or making up stories, or things like that. That would be my fear if we would do anonymous stories. Um, but publishing names, on the other hand, makes me think that there might be a little more people than not that say, "Oh, I'd like to tell my story, but I'm afraid to get on." You've heard me talk about this before. A lot of people say, "I'm afraid to get on some government watch list." My local cops, they'll freaking write my name on a watch list in a second if they hear I'm telling the story about when they stopped me. And to be quite honest with you, I can't doubt that that would happen here in South Carolina. Um, eh, I wouldn't doubt it. I'm probably not specifically related, but look up Chief Stan Witten of Easley, South Carolina, who's no longer the chief of police there. Um, but because of some of my advocacy, I've had him try to intimidate me um, through the internet keyboard warrior police officer. Anyway, um, so my thought, if you were to answer this, would you want to, use your name? Would you want to use your name and first name, last letter? Would you want to use a pseudonym name? You know, that kind of thought as the storyteller. Um, I mean, I think there's appropriate ways that we can tell these stories if someone wishes to remain anonymous and still tell the story, um, and not have because. Hey, I believe there could be retaliation. It could happen. So, first one was, when officers claim they smell cannabis but none is found. What's your name? What was your age at the time of the stop? Because some of these stories could be a few years back. In what country or what county did the stop take place? I'm not at this point asking specific cities, towns, if it was a local town cop. Um, should I? Should I change that to, what police organization stopped you? What was the name of the police organization? Um, would that be a better question? Not a bad question now I think about it. Uh, what year did the stop take place? So again, somebody might say, well, it happened when I was 17, but it also happened 20 years ago. Um, Things may have changed in the community in 20 years since then. But that doesn't mean that you haven't had 20 years worth of residual consequences that we would want to learn about and telling that story. I say it quite often. I believe that if cannabis had been legal during my adult life, my career path probably would have been quite different. Had President Reagan not implemented P testing to get a job at the government level, and then quickly, private industries followed, and I believe, and I may be mistaken, but I believe like insurance companies mandated that for some companies, especially companies that might have higher risk, like drivers or machine operators or something like that. Um, but yeah, had that not been a thing, had cannabis been legal, being able to go out and smoke a joint after work, like going out and having a beer after work, my career path may have been completely different. I may be in a completely different financial position now, except for that, our government decided to demonize cannabis consumers and then try and call them lazy, and then block them from getting jobs. Oh, you're lazy. What do you mean I'm lazy? Well, you don't have a job. Well, it's because you don't make me pee in a cup to get a job. Well, pee in a cup. Okay, pee in the cup. Oh, well, now you got cannabis in there. Now you can't have a job because you're lazy or something like that. You know, that's my grade. So anyway, um, can you describe the circumstances leading up to the stop and what initially prompted the officer to approach you? Yeah, again, is this a situation where you were driving by at 50 miles an hour in a 55 zone, and you had two bags sealed up in vacuum bags in the trunk, and the cops claimed, "Oh yeah, I smelled that," after he illegally searched your car? Um, can you describe the circumstances leading up to the initial stop? What did the police officers specifically say or do when they claimed to smell marijuana? Were any other reasons given for the stop? We want to know kind of a little bit more. That was what was going on in the circumstances. I'm sorry, I just saw this. We had county police stopping people at a railroad crossing to give out railroad safety information. I read that as on the railroad. I could see them like stopping you on the tracks. Here, stop here. We're going to hand you some information. I mean, there was that one not too long ago where the person was handcuffed in the back of a police car that was parked on the railroad track. Train came along, hit the frickin' police car with a person in the back. So yeah, I would I would be surprised if they were stopping them on the tracks. Uh, oh my goodness! Thank you for that, Josh. I needed a bit of a ironic giggle there. Okay, so where are the other reasons given for the stop? Next question on my list here: were you informed of your rights during the encounter, such as the right to remain silent or the right to legal representation? Two things that are covered in your Freedom Card, Normal Foundation Freedom Card, is Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and your Sixth Amendment right not to answer questions without an attorney present. I don't know why, but I seem to really like that one. It's because, once you say that, I want my attorney present before answering any more questions. I'm invoking my Sixth Amendment right. If they continue to ask you questions, technically they're violating your civil rights by breaking the law, asking you questions when you've already requested your attorney. Oh, okay. So they're crossing everyone that was crossing, claiming to give out railroad information, but instead just so they could get that whiff and sniff going. And of course, they're gonna. I watch too many First Amendment videos, but I would believe if you only cracked your window like this much and you know declined to give ID because you aren't suspected of a crime and that kind of stuff, they'd find a reason. They'd find a reason. They'd give you help. Anyway, that's what that sounds like to me. Thank you for sharing. Oh my goodness. Were you informed of your rights during that to remain silent? So yeah, other one in here, Fourth Amendment, not to consent to unlawful searches and seizures. Because again, when they claim they smell something, you can decline. I mean, now they claim now they have a reasonable suspicion, or they claim to have a reasonable suspicion. So now they can search. Because if they ask you before they claim it, you can decline, or they can claim you violated a law, um, and not just a traffic infraction like a light out. Were you informed of your rights? Okay, I got that one. Can you provide details about how the search was conducted? Where were you asked to consent, or did the officers proceed without consent? Were you physically restrained or handcuffed during the search? Now, this one I also wanted to throw in because, again, I watch so many auditing videos. Did you video record the interaction? Were there any other witnesses to the encounter, and did they observe or hear anything relevant to the situation? So that was kind of two questions in one, but did you record is a yes or no? And I'm going to tell you, always record the police. Always. Yeah, the Supreme Court's found that we have a right to record our public servants in the course of their duties. Um, always record. Now, I gotta admit, I've been a cheapskate. Something I've wanted to do for a number of years, but I'm just too cheap to do it. Is to actually get decent um, cameras in my car, dash cams. I had seen a couple I was kind of liking, and then all of a sudden they weren't available anymore. I'm like, ah. And then, some of the others that were similar were just more expensive than I wanted. But please record all of your interactions with government officials, whether you're just going to the town hall to file a FOIA request, or just to ask what's on the town calendar, or a town meeting, or anywhere that you're lawfully allowed to record. There might be some restrictions in very few places, but courthouses have a right to, not courthouses, but generally courtrooms and some adjoining areas to the courtroom. I know some will claim the whole courthouse, but generally that's not constitutional because those courthouses also have other offices in that are public offices. Um, so uh, let me hit the next one here before I ramble too far. Oh, we're almost at the end, so we're only going to get through the one question here, it looks like. Do you feel that the search was conducted professionally and respectfully, or did you experience any mistreatment or abuse during the encounter? How do you reach? How did you reach? Rea- how did you react to the situation, both during and after the encounter? Did you express any concerns or objections to the officer? Were any records or documentation generated as a result of this encounter? Now, remember, this is you were stopped, nothing was found, you weren't arrested, but you had an encounter with an officer who claimed to have smelled marijuana. Have you ever experienced similar encounters with law enforcement officers in the past, or was this an isolated incident? Can you share how this incident has affected you emotionally or psychologically or in any other way? Have you sought any support or counseling as a result? Have you considered reporting this incident to the police department's internal affairs division, an oversight body, or any other relevant authorities? If so, what has been your experience with that process? What are your thoughts on the broader issues of racial profiling or unwanted stops by law enforcement officers and its impact on communities? And have you been involved in any advocacy efforts or organizations working to address issues related to policing and civil rights in your community? So that is just that one questionnaire. It will be slightly different for the other three categories that we're starting with. And again, I see we're running out of time here tonight already. My hope is to be able to start in the next week or so. Like I said, I've got two of them ready. I'll get these links in probably tomorrow morning and probably do a promo. I may wait until I get the other two questionnaires done. Um, Again, thanks to the help of AI, it kind of makes the process quicker than me trying to come up with all these questions out of the blue. Um, but we'll start collecting stories. Hopefully, people will respond well, and we can then kind of evaluate the initial stories, and at that point, start to schedule some one-on-one interviews through our podcasting software where we can record them. We can then pull that video into whatever video editing software we may need to, if we may need to do clips or stuff like that. Uh, Probably more, I would think titling and things of that nature than actual story edits, unless there's dead space we want to clip or something like that. But or if we have somebody answer a question a second time because of, me, I'll stammer, I'll mumble, I'll tell Mike for clarity be able to, we might have to do some redos like that or whatever. So I'm hoping to have this be a relatively, clean looking production, hopefully easy to watch and understand, and then we will kind of um, create a playlist home for these on our YouTube. Hopefully, it will be a place then we can share these links to these different stories to our legislators That's one of the reasons, kind of why I want to know what county these people are in, but I should almost ask what legislative districts they're in, House and Senate. Um, that gets a little complicated, so it's probably easier just to mention a county. Um, so let me kind of take a quick peek here at comments, see if I have any comments before I start doing our wind down. Uh, I'm still back here on Johnny Long Pipe. I like that name. Sorry. Uh, No, not a whole lot of other comments that I kind of seeing that are replying to anything we're talking about at the moment. So I appreciate y'all though commenting. Um, and I see we're at 7:56. Guess what? We've got time. Let me turn this off for one more trivia question. Let's go ahead and hit it. Might as well. Three. We got all three of them done this week. I'm kind of excited about that. I don't know why, but I'm excited about it. Knowledge category. 50-point question. It's a big one. 50-point question. In a new study, I don't know how old these are, so I don't know how new the study is. Scientists have turned to this social media site to understand cannabis culture. Is that Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Reddit? Knowledge category, 50-point question. In a newish study, scientists have turned to this social media site to understand cannabis culture. Was it Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Reddit? Any guesses? Throw them in the comment section. I'll give you just a second. Not seeing any guesses. Let's go ahead and hit this right away. The last time through knowledge base, 50-point question. In a new study, scientists have turned to the social media site to understand cannabis culture. Is it Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Reddit? And the answer is Reddit. I don't, I'm old. I don't exactly know where to start on Reddit. I've kind of been there on it, but I don't know what I'm doing. Doesn't mean I know what I'm doing on any of the other social medias either, but all right, that is it, I think, for this evening. One last comment I do want to kind of make, just because it's kind of interesting news this week. I was on a phone call yesterday morning with a young fella, 25-year-old. Oh, did I lose it or is it still on my screen here? His name, Brandon Trollinger, 25 years old, running for North Charleston City Council District 6. North Charleston City Council District 6 coming up in the November 7th elections. Um, Brandon's an interesting young man, 25 years old. I know I mentioned it, was planning on or thinking about running for the mayor of North Charleston. Uh, Apparently had some discussions with his team, and they said, maybe this step would be better going for a city council seat. But he's calling it, he's part of the new generation of leadership, he's calling himself. Um, was great to talk to. Nice to have a young man like this looking to get into helping his community um, through political service. Definitely believes in decriminalization. Thinks it would help a lot of people in his community. So we're hoping to have him on. Actually, we scheduled him. I have to pull up my calendar for about a month before the election. So we're going to have him in on November. No, I'm sorry, October 4th. That's only 2 weeks out. Oh, heck. I thought it was further out than that. Cool. October 4th, we're going to be having Brandon Trollinger, who is running for City Council District 6 of North Charleston, in on the podcast in about 2 weeks. So hope to see you there. It should be an interesting conversation. I love new people and new ideas, and if it can help us change marijuana laws and new energy, he has a lot of energy. I like that. So All right, 8 o'clock here, folks. I am out of here. Don't forget to follow us on social media. You'll find me over on Facebook more than you will on Instagram, and Twitter's probably going bye bye if they're going to start charging. But definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that subscription bell, and join us here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. for the cannabis conversation. I will see you next week. Thank you for joining me. Good night now.